Namibia in southern Africa boasts an abundance of wildlife. But it's a harsh region where water and food are in short supply. With growing human populations, the battle between man and beast for these precious resources often lands some animals in trouble. But in the midst of this desolate landscape lies a safe haven for animals in need, the Rare and Endangered Species Trust, or R.E.S.T. Founded by animal rehabilitator extraordinaire Maria Diekmann, the center was first established to conserve the last of the Cape Griffon vultures in Namibia.
The R.E.S.T started for the Cape Griffon vulture, and as we progressed a little bit and did some very successful captures, because we had to capture these last birds and put satellite telemetry on them, so we learned a lot. We started getting some of the first information in Africa. And then I sort of sat back and I said, wait a second, we can actually do more. You know, we can sort of hit a little bit more biodiversity so that we don't get too focused on just one species, because in the end, it's the environment that we care about. It's not just a single species, and everything has to link.
Now R.E.S.T has expanded to care for a whole host of indigenous creatures, from aardvarks to pangolins.
Actually, the calls that we get are really seasonal. So obviously we have baby season. I'm already trying to get extra sleep to prepare for baby season. Then we start getting the youngsters, young eagles, young vultures that maybe are not knowing where to forage exactly. And then we get, in general, all the time, our broken wings hitting power lines, especially the large raptors, especially vultures, and of course we get poisonings throughout the year.
Many of the animals at R.E.S.T require highly specialized care, and feeding the menagerie of creatures takes a dedicated team and lots of hard work. Because of R.E.S.T's location on the edge of the Kalahari Desert, water is in short supply. The aviary, home to a variety of rescued birds, sits on the edge of a cliff face, and while this is the perfect place for the winged patients to recover, it poses an added obstacle for Maria and her team. Water and food have to be walked up the mountain every second day. In the wild, birds would fly many miles to find water, but those here at R.E.S.T are totally dependent on these human-delivered supplies. There are two distinct categories for animals admitted to R.E.S.T, those who are set for release, and those who must be looked after for the rest of their lives.
If an animal comes in and I think it's got even a chance for release, then it has very little public exposure. It'll have exposure to myself and my staff and some of my students, but it's not going to have general public exposure because that's an animal that's going to go back out in the wild. We don't want it to get habituated. We want it to stay aggressive.
The ultimate aim of R.E.S.T is to give rescued animals another chance by rehabilitating and releasing them back into the wild. One such lucky creature is Beatrice the aardvark. Rescued from a hunter's snare, Beatrice arrived painfully thin and near death. But thanks to the tireless work of the R.E.S.T team, she's regained her strength and is almost ready to be released. She's even foraging for her own food. But for now, she's always under the watchful eye of one of her carers. Another animal that requires a human chaperone is Katiti the pangolin. He was born at R.E.S.T after his mother was rescued from the illegal wildlife trade. But despite his sad start, he's become an important part of the organization. And Maria attributes her amazing success with rehabilitating pangolins to Katiti's presence in her home. When Maria isn't escorting her rescues around, she's playing mom to a bunch of adorable warthog piglets.
They were really small when they came in. I mean, they were tiny little piglets, probably about a week and a half old. They were on the bottle. Try feeding 4 hungry warthogs at the same time, though.
The orphaned warthog piglets found a new home and a new mom in Maria.
They're sleeping in my bed. They had a big blanket in there, and they'd burrow in every night, and just as they would outside in a hole. But it's not as a bunny huggerish kind of thing. It's because that's what they're still doing in the wild with their moms. If you look in the wild, every single little piglet this age is still with their mom. They're still foraging with their moms, or at least in the area with their moms, and they're still sleeping with their moms. So my piglets are still with their mom.
The warthogs are well on their way to being fully rehabilitated and are almost ready for release.
They're already going out during the day on their own. In the morning, sometimes they'll walk with me, sometimes they won't. It's their choice. But often I don't see them for 8 to 10 hours. It's what would happen in nature, and I have to get them back out in nature.
Unfortunately, not every animal is fit to be released, but each successful rehabilitation means a lesson learned and a life saved.
If an animal's going to be non-releasable, you go with a totally different mode. You slowly gain the trust of that animal, because now she can be used for an education bird to show children that, this is a beautiful eagle. And it makes a huge impact on these kids. With a good many of them, it changes their lives.
And for some animals, like Seymour, life is just too good at rest. The little owl is physically releasable, but he won't leave.
So what happened with C is that he came in as a little owlet, little tiny guy, and owls are pretty easy to get back out into the wild, so that was the intention with Seymour. Unfortunately, in his training, he actually bonded with me. So we've tried to release Seymour a couple of times, and he's one of the few animals that I have that physically is releasable, but mentally not. So C is part of the family now.
Maria has grown R.E.S.T into the go-to organization for the successful rehabilitation of all sorts of endangered animals. She's had extraordinary results, especially with notoriously difficult species like pangolins.
And it's always just been my hobby. It's never been a career, it's never been a job, I've never gotten a salary, but for me, it's my passion.
Through the unwavering dedication of Maria and her team at the Rare and Endangered Species Trust, animals in need are given a second chance at survival. But Maria believes that an awareness of nature is key to the successful conservation of species in trouble.
There's nature around you somewhere. And if you can just once a day look around and see something that you appreciate, if it's a blade of grass just beautifully silhouetted in the sun, if you can do that, then you're doing something for nature. And once we start getting people aware, that's when we start getting support. So every day, try to see something that you appreciate in nature, wherever you are.